Hi everyone, McBeard here, back with another card reveal video slash Devstream reveal video, but they were revealing lots of things, not just cards, but also new keywords as well, and some design philosophy stuff as well. So I'm going to cover the new keyword stuff, and I'm going to cover some of the topics that they touched on in the stream. Because I think that there is a lot to go through. The change to lock, perhaps, talking about Blood Moon again, but not showing it. I mean, we've all been there before, right? So there's lots of stuff to talk about, and I want to talk about that with you. And then we're going to just go through the cards. 10 new cards we saw today, 2 from each faction. So that's pretty exciting. Get to see a little bit more fleshed out stuff, some amazing artwork, some really cool abilities. But let's talk about the stream. So the developer stream today, March 6th, was led by our friends Paul and Austri. Paul being the community manager, Austri being gameplay designer. So I just want to say that I felt like they really did a good job with the vibe of this stream, because it really did feel like the community talking to the developers. Powell playing the role of the community in the questions he was asking and how he was asking it, and dipping into the chat, and Magic just kind of being just, you know, like just a stone cold gangster about all of those questions. There was a good vibe there. I really did feel like I just feel like this is, you know, it's above and beyond the kind of stuff that they do. And I think that they're super candid about it. They start out by saying, hey, there's a PTR that's going on right now and content creators are on it, and we're getting a lot of positive feedback. So the way he phrased it was like confused about the positive feedback.
I probably shouldn't say it, but I'm a bit surprised because it's like overwhelmingly positive.
Surprised by the overwhelming positivity. Well, that's a pretty cool thing for him to say. It's cool that they are saying that there's a PTR and there are people on that PTR and giving their opinions on the PTR, but I can't really comment on such a thing, so I don't know anything about that overwhelming positivity at all. Lock is being changed as well. It's no longer removing any status effects at all. It's only going to cancel the ability of the card, like the card text. I really like this a lot, because I think that the less exceptions to rules there are, the more clear it will be. So that's very good, especially considering if it's not removing shield, it's also going through shield. So protecting something like Avalok or something like Imlerith or whatever with a shield means that I can still mitigate the value, but not in the same way, right? He said lock is too good, and I agree with him. And finally, they announced that content creators would be part of revealing new cards very soon, but again, I can't comment on that, mostly because I don't really consider myself a content creator, more of an artist, I think. So I don't know when these content creators are going to be revealing these cards. It could be days, even weeks. So let's talk about the new stuff. Let's go through the keywords first, and then we'll go through the cards, because it'll be much easier to understand the cards. So let's just go right through. So the Crimson Curse, new cards revealed. Here we are on March 6th. YouTube video is already up, so you can check it out here. Check the link below if you want to come to this page and read along with me here. But we have a pretty good list of, I believe this is all of the statuses and all of the keywords that are going to be introduced or redefined in Crimson Curse. So let's go through these really quick. We've seen a lot of these already, so that's why I'm going to say really quick, because a lot of this is clarification, because they did leak some of these, but this is much clearer than it was the other day. So Bonded is controlling a copy of a unit. Death Blow, kill a unit for a bonus. We talked about this as well, like how Temerian Pikeman currently is like, so meaning that Precise Pings is going to be good. I wonder if they'll ever make an Overkill stat, because sometimes I feel like I would love to get extra value on Overkill. Purify removes all statuses on a target. All statuses. Every last one. So all of these being status, like you see in Bleeding, Vitality, Shield, Poison, Locked, Doomed, and Immune, I believe, and Resilient. Those are all of them, I think. It removes all of those things, and Lock does not remove those things anymore. Purify now is specifically for statuses. Lock is now specifically for abilities. This I'm not polarized by it. It makes sense to me the way it was explained. I'm down with it. Lock is very strong, and when you're adding more effects to the game, Hearthstone had the same problem with Silence. They really limited that effect. It prevents cards from being really fun. It prevents certain strategies, and especially in Gwent, in a game where you are more often than not guaranteed to play out your strategy until the end of the game. So I get it. I feel it, and I like it. Berserk here is the trigger effect when the unit has half or less base power. I think Oster said it always rounds up. So this means that a 7 strength unit that berserks, it berserks at 4. But much like Oster said on the stream, berserk, that particular berserk was the only negative berserk they showed, the card in the last video, the Disgraced Brawler. Check out the video up here, down there. I got links all over the place. Formation. Now, this is a really, really cool new keyword that they presented with Northern Realms. But now, when it's played on the melee row, it gets zeal. But when it's played on the ranged row, it gets boosted by 1 power. So, like, how cool is this? Now it's like a keyword has been given to Northern Realm units that gives you the option to protect it. So now I don't feel like I have to play Meath to protect all my stuff, because I can play these units to do things that I have the option to protect instead. Or I don't feel like I need to play full test to give things zeal, because I have the option to give them zeal if I want. It's very much like Riot and MTG, but it's very, very Gwenty because it's row-based. It is amazing. I love Formation. Assimilation is the next one. Whenever you play a card that didn't start the game in your deck, boost self by 1. Chat took this a little better than I thought, because it does support an idea that you are creating a lot of cards outside of your deck, and that is a scary word. But I will say, we haven't really seen the full set. There could be a lot of ways that actually allow you to control the variance and focus this power, and I'm hoping that that's the case, because I think that there's a lot of fun in a deck. Like the idea of Slave Driver previously, like vintage Slave Driver, the idea of Slave Driver was a fun card until you realize that it was just +1 on some faction's other good card. If they can make it not feel like that, I'm down. I'm down with that. We see Assimilation. We also see Harmony here. So these are Thrive-like universal effects that these factions are getting. This is really, really important because I know how good Thrive feels, and I also know how powerful Thrive feels. So if other factions have stuff that they can trigger in unique ways, that means that they will have unique engines that will feel like a faction identity, but will also feel powerful because proccing those green numbers, bing, 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 that's so good. So it seems like every faction is getting their own, I'll say it again, bing, bing, bing effect. The idea is that these are engine pieces. Bleeding is looking like it's going to be for monsters, and they already have Thrive, so look out. But hey, you can only include so many cards in your deck. Maybe it's just another way to play it, and that's what I'm all about. And I think that's what these cards have shown us. Other ways to play the classes, ways that maybe we've wanted to play these classes all along. Let's go. Let's jump into these cards. 10 new cards, my friends. New monster card coming in the 5 provision slot at 3 strength. This is the Alp. She is a vampire, and she has a deploy effect that says damage an enemy unit by 2. And if the Alp is under Blood Moon, drain an enemy by 2 instead. But we don't know what Blood Moon is. Wow, the classic Blood Moon bamboozle. Good job. Thanks for doing this to me again. But let's just make an assumption. We can assume that the Blood Moon is an effect that a unit can be under, which means it's something you place on your side of the row because you're playing the unit under it. Okay, so we know it's a positive weather effect. Moonlight's effect was boosting a beast or a vampire each turn by 2. Now, the weird thing is Blood Moon was the negative effect and Moonlight was the positive effect, but it's possibly that they just made this a positive effect. It's not really clear. But what is clear is that you're going to be able to play it on the board somehow, and this card is better in a deck that wants to do that. Because if you're going to do that, I would imagine you play the card, it drains a unit by 2, so now you've gained 2, your opponent has lost 2, that's 7, and then it potentially could boost itself in the positive status effect. I mean, wow, it makes me wonder how commonplace Blood Moon could be, because I mean, if this looks like it could just be a centerpiece card. I wonder how we're gonna have to see how many cards care about Blood Moon. If Blood Moon can either be universally caring about vampires, or it can have cards that care specifically about it. I'm not really sure where the more exciting design space is, but I will say this card again, you know, gets the old mind going, gets the conversation going. The second monsters card we see is Feast of Blood. Feast of Blood. Give an enemy unit bleeding for 6 turns. And if you control a vampire, purify it first. It's a 4 provision special card. So the monsters cards, we've seen 2 4s and a 5. These are the bottom end of what monsters will be receiving. On first glance, I thought, this does not look good. But you have to consider a few things. 1, the bleeding status effect is going to matter, I hope. And the second thing is this is a dual use card in that it does have a purify effect. So if you are trying to get rid of something like a shield, if you just happen to be teching against something like resilience, you can do that. This is kind of like it feels a little bit like how First Light used to feel, how it had 2 uses, sort of. This does feel like it purifies, but it also gets the added effect of statusing your opponent and bleeding them for 6 turns. Can this card likely get you 6 value? I'm going to say no. Unless there's a card that immediately consumes bleeds or something like that, this card won't get value. But what you are doing is placing a weather-esque type effect on a unit, and you are not playing a card. So that has control elements in a slow burn style, and I actually think that this card might see play, because maybe there's a control monsters build that really utilizes bleeds and just kind of watches your opponent's board melt while they wait for their combo. All right, on to Nilfgaard. The first Nilfgaard cards we have seen in the expansion were finally leaked, and they made you wait until the end of the stream, but I'm not going to make you wait. This is Nilfgaard's new engine and new keyword, Assimilate. And I really liked the way they justified assimilation, like the way they did it with the lore, the idea that Nilfgaard is an empire that invades and takes, especially if they're talking about Sintra, which is very that is very lore-like if they are talking about assimilation. Even though Sintra appears to be Northern Realms, we'll get to that. What I will say is that this card, another dual-use card, is a 5-provision 3-point engine. You also get the added effect of having a Purify on deploy. So you can really decide when you're going to get your value here. Much like a Thrive unit, you try to play it early because you know you're going to you have a maximum amount of Thrives you're trying to generate. In this case, with Assimilation, you will have a maximum amount of plays that create or play a card that didn't start in your deck, which, man, this really gets my mind thinking of how they are going to install this. Much like Alba Armor Cavalry, which is a lock on a stick, but is also a soldier, so you have these cool things about that card that is otherwise a staple that encourages you to think when you're playing against Nilfgaard, oh, okay, they're probably going to have a lock because it's just a pretty good card. Just remember, they have Albas, they're going to lock. So when you're up against a deck that has Assimilate, you're going to have to say the same thing. Just remember, they have Purify for all my, my elite status effects that I'm dropping on my cards that I haven't seen yet. I think that this card spells potential, but by itself leaves a lot of questions. Because the next Nilfgaard card is not about create. This is just a cool card. Damn, this is a cool card. This is Vivian de Tabris. She is a 10 provision point card coming in at 3 strength with a deploy effect, so she's good. Set a unit's power equal to its provision cost. Man, the possibilities from here, it's just out there. I mean, this makes a lot of the high provision point cards with strong deploys even better, and this becomes one of them, right? You kind of meet the value halfway, right? So you're saying that Vivian got you 9 points, but Erden also got you the value that Erden got you, as well as being a perfect candidate for this buff. It's just a really cool concept of boosting that offers you a lot of different situations here, and a whole bunch of different variations of what you could target, how you would build your deck to target it. Are you using it? Are you using it to heal something that has been damaged, or are you using it on something like Geralt Erden to get 9 points of value on that body? And you are setting the unit's power. Now, Austri said that this was not a damage or a boost effect, but I don't think it's a strengthen effect. So I do think that the number remains green and resettable. It's just not a boost effect. It offers you a lot of high power potential and reward for playing cards that are already getting you a lot of value off your strong deploys anyway, like Dandelion Poet, like Geralt Erden, like Geralt Igni, but also it makes all of those cards now an extra added threat in a Nilfgaard deck, like, oh, Igni has done its damage, but has it? In that same vein, you have her brickable if she doesn't have a really good target. So keep that in mind, but it's a very cool card. Northern Realms 2 cards up next, starting off with the Cintran Artificer. He has the new keyword Formation, which is awesome. So if you play the Cintran Artificer on the melee row, it is a 3-point card that can give a shield to a unit instantly. But you have the other option of playing it on the back row and just saying, take it or leave it. I'll play it at 4 points. If my opponent wants to remove it, that's fine. They spent removal on it. If they don't remove it, cool. I have a shield I can give to my engine that I'm going to drop. Good Northern Realms card right here. I hope. I just think Formation, there's a lot of promise here. I just think they just nailed it with really cool keywords. And we get to see a big new gold for Northern Realms. Boy, oh boy, King Ragnar. Dude who would be king, King Ragnar. So they picked this scene here of him spraining his legs in a hunting accident. Just glorious King Ragnar. So he has a 10 provision point card coming in at 4 strength with a deploy ability. When you play him on the melee row, which is good that you actually don't have to activate this ability if for whatever reason it would be not beneficial for you. Remove shields from all units and then boost self by 3 for each shield removed. Well. This sounds familiar. First of all, it sounds like Vincent of old, vintage Vincent, someone who would remove armor from all units on the board and then gain half of that amount as strength, which was just a brain buster of a math problem sometimes. You just like hope it was enough when you played Vincent. You know, you get Wyndham of Archer, you get this card. It looks like you kind of have like, it's like a shadow of Redanian Knight Elect, a shadow of Old Vincent, a shadow of Armor, Boosty, Northern Realms in these cards. And then we move into Scoia'tael with Paul Burge's awesome story about how he creeps around and lurks his friends at work by creeping around the walls. I thought that was actually funny. So this is Mantis Trap, which when the trap's trigger is when the next unit is played by your opponent. So on play, this trap flips over and poisons that unit, and then also transforms the trap into a 6 strength unit with no ability. But I believe is a treant, which is a keyword, which is a new type of unit for Scoia'tael, which matters maybe for Harmony. Maybe not for this card because it doesn't seem like you play it, but in the future. So it's a trap. This is a really weird card in that it's a trap that doesn't remain a trap, so Eldain doesn't care about it. But Yorveth Gambit cares about it, and Poison cares about it. So is it okay that Eldain has a trap that can't be used with him? So I'm not really sure how to evaluate Eldain in this situation, but in a vacuum, this card is an interesting card in that it is a 7 provision point card that will give you 6 points on the board, and it'll also apply poison to an opponent. You don't have control where the poison goes, but you then that unit is now under your will. It is like it lives or dies by your will, because then you'll be applying poison again later, probably, if you're running this card. Now, I just don't know how this is going to really work with Incinerating Trap. I don't really know how this is going to work with Pitfall Trap. So, like, if you just poison a thing and then kill it, like, oh well. I mean, I just feel like these things that are doing things to opponents, the more often that thing kills a unit, the less often you are interested in running multiple traps. So I think I need to see this card in an environment maybe where it needs to thrive, because my mind is not that environment. So this card is another card that is different based on what row you play it on, which is really, really good. More modal cards. This is what I actually thought like the future of Gwent could look like when they said they wanted rows to matter. This card gives a unit poison or gives a unit shield. It's also a Dryad, so that matters to things that care about Dryad. So if you have something poisoned on the board, this is your kill shot. And if you have an engine on the board, you can protect it if it's still alive or just hanging on. So it seems like a Dryad deck would probably use this, but I feel like a poison-specific deck probably would make more use out of it. And I don't know if poison... I think there's probably a lot of different ways to play Dryads. We will have to see. Finally, we'll talk about the 2 Skellige cards they showed, but boy, oh boy, this card is something else. Artis, not a leader for Skellige, as I thought he might end up being. But Artis is looking like a really cool card. This is a 10 provision card. 5 strength. On the ranged row, he has the persistent effect of whenever a unit is played, damage itself by half of its power, both sides of the board. So this means that your units, if you are playing Berserk, automatically proc, and your opponent is taking an Ulfidin's worth of damage every time they play a card. So if I were to play an 8, it's damage to 4. If I were to play a 7, if we're rounding up, half of its power is 4. Berserk's effect triggers when the unit has half or less base power. So in this situation, the 8-point card triggers its Berserk at 4, but the 7-point card also triggers its Berserk at 4. However, Artis damages a unit by half of its power, so he does more damage than is necessary to trigger Berserk. I mean, I'm not sure if this is going to matter yet. I feel like this requires like analysis of more than what we have right now. But the card itself, though, just seems like a really cool card. Like, it's a cool card, like how Gels is a cool card. Just good job. And the art is sick, and the premium art is super sick. Really good job on this one. Finally, for this card review, we have the Svalblood Fanatic. This is a 4 provision point card that comes in at 4 strength with a Berserk effect, transform into a Bear Abomination. So upon taking 2 damage, this card turns into a 5 strength card, which is doomed. So no Beastmaster stuff unless you purify Doomed off of it, I guess. So there were a lot of people in the chat that said that this card is super bad, but it's not, I don't think, because here's like Death Wish is like it's an anti-control strategy. You play your Ancient Foglets, you play your Harpy Eggs, you play your Rot Fiends, you play your Bridge Trolls. So if this unit transforms into a higher health unit when it's actually damaged, it is countering a ping strategy, and it is countering a strategy that is trying to get value out of damage. So this needs to kill this unit to do it, which means a 4 ping is needed to do it. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and just get my value out of my self-wound cards, which is going to negate the self-wound and just get me that pure value. So I'm going to play my Elder Bear into it, or maybe a new card that damages something like the old Longships used to do. I mean, I really don't know. But, again, your opponent has to decide if they're going to allow you to get this value. And this is just a 4-point card. This is just a 4-point card. This is Ancient Foglet levels of whatever. But I mean, you still would run it. You would run it, in a world where people are going to have these new death blows. They're going to care about these precise pings. You're going to be dropping this card here. The Marauder, and I think an Ancrate Marauder, does it not counter Ancrate Marauder in a mirror? How is this card bad? It's only bad if if control is not that prevalent. It's bad against tempo, I guess. It's bad against engine and tempo, I suppose, but control has a hard time dealing with it, and control elements have a hard time dealing with it. And the thing is, you're probably going to make use of these effects anyway, so don't worry about it. Don't worry about this card. All right, my friends, that's all I have for you. Again, this is YouTube. You know how this works. You know how much your support means to me. Thank you so much. If you like the video, show me, tell me, and I'll see you next time.